Hello and welcome to Property Mastermind Podcast, episode 236, and welcome to 2026 yet again. We're a few weeks in now, but we're excited to be here, and wow, what a year we are in for as property developers. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 top mistakes developers make. You are going to take away the things you need to look out for and maybe see if any of these things you've done, you're doing right now, or they clearly resonate with you. So let's jump on into episode 236. Hello and welcome to episode 236. Yeah, we're talking mistakes. The mistakes that property developers make, and they can actually avoid them. So these are the top 5 that we believe, Bob believes, and we believe. You've got to remember, Bob's been doing this for well over 40 years now. So he does have a bit of an idea of what's going on in the property development space. Anyway, we're going to unpack this, and you're going to have some fabulous takeaways and maybe a little bit of homework for yourself. So Bob, welcome to episode 236.
Great to be here.
And what do you
Thanks, Hillary.
What do you think of the topic today, the top 5 mistakes?
Well, mistakes, deadly things, aren't they? In varying degrees. I mean, they can cost you a little or a lot.
I suppose that's like all things in life. You know, You forget to put oil in your car, it could cost you a lot of money. But if you catch it before it explodes, then it won't cost you so much money.
That's a good idea. Good analogy.
Yeah, maybe.
That happened to me once.
Oh, it's happened to me
on a trip
once.
to Victoria.
Yes.
Many years ago.
Oh, yeah. In our young and stupid years. Hey, Bob, what's your tip for the week?
My tip for the week is not all sunblocks are created equal, as I found out when we went fishing recently.
Yes.
I have a very good 50, which I think has zinc in it that you bought me, because I look like a snowman when I put it on.
Yes.
But I used a different 50. And I thought, 50-50, it's all the same.
50-50, I know.
They're not all the same, I found out, after a day on the water.
Bob has, for those who don't watch us on YouTube, Bob has the ancestry of, where is it? It's Scandinavian.
Well, Denmark, Viking ancestry.
Yeah, Denmark. So he has more of a white skin colour and a sort of a pink hue. And even if you look at us on the podcast, but I can see it in the background, the camera. We don't generally look at ourselves. We're looking at the camera or each other. That I have Spanish. I think not Spanish. What is it?
Portuguese.
Portuguese. That sort of colour. So I just walk outside and I just get brown skin. So we look ridiculous, don't we? And you will go red so fast.
My skin's built for the snow. You know,
Yes.
up near the Arctic, just south of the Arctic.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's good in the snow. Just not, and that's ironic though, because you don't love the cold.
No, and I have been sunburned in the snow from reflection too. So
that's a thing.
Yeah, I think, my ancestors had the big woolly hat and the horns and everything on, whatever, Vikings used to have, and beards.
Yes.
So they probably didn't get too sunburned, but no, that's what I inherited. And I knew the other day you went to the pool for an hour and came back tanned right up.
But I wasn't even sunbaking there.
No.
I think I'd gone for a walk and a couple of games of golf, and next thing I walked back inside and I just go brown. Anyway, not that that's a cool thing, but like it's not. Things are changing out there. My daughter rang the other day and she was wanting to, keep out of the sun, and crikey, I'm like, that's not the young girl I used to know. Anyway, Bob, today before we do, let's the book winner. Dale Quigley, mate, coming to you. Go straight to page 121. Great chat. This is on its way. Bob will even sign it for you. If you'd like to win the book, write a great comment under our YouTube clip. You go in the draw, or reach out and give me a question, or tell me that you'd like to win it. But we'd love for you to go and subscribe. That makes other people finding us so much easier. Anyway, Bob, let's talk about the 5 most common points that you and I discussed this morning at length over our morning coffee.
Yeah, we did. Or it might have been our second coffee.
Yeah, yes. Well,
for you, it might have been your third or fourth.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Do run on a few coffees, quite partial coffee. Number one, and you listening, you're going to roll your eyes and go, here they go. But it's lack of knowledge. And we're not necessarily talking about you have to buy a course, but you're stupid if you don't, we believe. Oh, is that a bit harsh? But really, just people not understanding enough of what they're doing, Bob, hey?
Yeah, and look, that goes way beyond property development. Hey, like if you wanted to do some repairs to your engine of your car, not that I recommend you do, and you took off with no knowledge, it'd be a mess. Things blow up. I mean, anything you do, you got to have knowledge. You got to understand what you're doing if you want to do it properly and do it well. Property development, pretty important stuff. There's big dollars involved. So why wouldn't you want to know as much as you could before you start? I mean, it's common sense. It's like we shouldn't have to say it, but we meet people who head off and attempt to do a property development thinking they're either going to pick it up off AI on the way, but basically, do it on the hop.
Do you know what? As I say those words, I have a slight resistance, probably because we're in the business we do sell property development education. So I think people listening going, oh, they're just, spamming their wares. So if we were to say lack of understanding, they don't understand. So that number one mistake, you don't understand what you need to do. You might get that in our case, we use a 9-step process. People can stretch it up, make it a 150-step process. Ours probably turns into that because each process gets broken down. But not knowing each step of the process, who's involved on the way and what exactly you need from them, not kind of what you might need from them. Exactly. I just had a chat to one of our mentoring students, Brett, this morning. We talk on his way to work, the old 7 a.m. chat on the phone. And he said, I just didn't know the right question to ask. And I was like, great. Okay, so we need to address that. And he's, so that helps with moving forward, knowing what you need to know. Like, we don't always know what holes need to be plugged when it comes to what information you don't understand or even just know. Bob, have you got any examples of people maybe before, or maybe yourself? Well, in your early days, before, when you were learning on the run, well, let's go back in that time. Did you make a big error? Actually, I know a big error that you might unpack here, but what big error that really impacted your life, not just in a minimal way, that actually made you think, holy heckers.
Yeah. Well, although I say get yourself educated, get the knowledge, when I started off, it wasn't that easy because there were no property development courses. I looked around, I found a couple of books, but they were written like 10 years earlier from somebody who lived in England. And so that's my excuse for heading out and trying to learn it on the run. I did, through my job as a real estate salesman, meet some developers, and I picked up bits and pieces here, and I spoke to a few like town planners and civil engineers because they were working on land subdivisions that I was selling for the real estate agency that I work for. So I picked up bits and pieces, but lots of holes. One of the biggest things that I didn't realize at the time, and it made me cocky and gave me confidence, is that markets can change. And the market changed. So this was on the Gold Coast back early 80s.
I know the story, and I knew this would be, we hadn't, like, this isn't planned, but I knew you'd come up with it because it's a classic
I'll
example.
keep it short. And my first project was a 4-lot subdivision, and then I did a 2-lot subdivision. So I was doing little subbies. What I didn't realize is that markets change. So, I mean, to somebody watching this now, they'd think, what an idiot. But you've got to remember, this is like 40 years ago, or even a bit more than 40 years ago now. And so there wasn't any knowledge of it. There's no internet. There was no books written about this sort of stuff. It was way before anybody was doing any seminars. So there was really like almost no way of finding out. And that's what I did. And I did a couple of projects, did really well. And I thought, how good's this? And I started to think everybody else must be stupid for not doing this. And how clever am I? Because I am. And I'm thinking, gee, if I do this for another 6 years, I'll probably retire before I get to 30. I'm starting to get cocky. And this was on the Gold Coast. And particularly back then, the market on the Gold Coast was probably the most volatile market in the whole of Australia. It was boom and bust, and then boom again, and then bust again. And I happened to come in on the rise of the boom, did a few good ones, got away with it, rode the tip, and then the bust cycle started, where there's huge amount of oversupply, buyers sort of disappear, and I was left with a subdivision with a whole heap of land that nobody wanted to buy. So my first big mistake was not understanding that. I just thought, the market just kept doing what it's doing. As dumb as that sounds in 2026.
Yeah. I think that's just a really simple takeaway for people. The market changes. Know the market in your patch. know what's going on. So, yeah, that's a mistake that we do see happening. And the second one, Bob, we've got, which was where you went to, overconfidence, leading into that DIY, like do it yourself, meaning kind of what you're talking about, but you had nowhere to go. That people that are, or even like it might be you listening, think you can do it yourself. We often get, oh, not so much often, we can get people. Yeah, I can usually tell if somebody just starts reaching out, they want information memorandums and they just want all the free stuff and they think you can learn like that. And you could, you'll pick up a lot of information, but it's kind of like maybe it's where a whole lot of information's all together at once, not collated in a way that's useful, and it will just clutter the brain. People will start focusing on, oh, that's the right thing, and maybe it's not. And it's just that I can do this myself mentality, yeah, and just a DIY. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah. And that sort of mentality is going to get them into trouble
Yeah.
sooner or later. You can be lucky. I'm thinking of coming out of COVID when, the world looked like it was going to end, but then it didn't. And things, the real estate market got a big cash injection from the government, but it only really helped part of the market, not all the market. But some people who bought sites that should never stack up in the real world, just because prices went up so much, it saved them. But that's back to this confidence thing, because all of a sudden they were a bit like I was, did really well and thought, geez, that was easy. But they were dumb, they were stupid, they didn't really understand what really makes a good property development. They just got carried by the market. And then when they went to repeat it, maybe 2 years later, and the sale prices had sort of steadied a bit, but build costs were on the 20%, 30% in a year, they got slaughtered because they never really learnt the first time. They were just lucky. And so that was this sort of bravado overconfidence. And I saw it out there. People crying how much money they'd made. And I thought, well, yeah, but you can't make a career out of that. That's not a business plan.
Luck isn't
relying on luck.
Yeah, luck's not a business plan. I love that. Luck is not a business plan. Here's your takeaway. Yeah. I don't want people to get confused with the fact that we do need confidence, because there's probably more people in the lacking confidence side of things than there are on the confidence side. But when it comes to errors, those are the type of people that will get themselves in that trouble.
I was talking about overconfidence,
where
it clouds your vision. You don't look at the detail of things. You make this assumption that it's all going to work. That's a different sort of confidence. A lack of confidence, you heard me say it 100 times over the years, property development is a confidence game. So you can't go in there lacking confidence, because, as you know, anybody who lacks confidence, they're just going to not make the step. They're going to get so far and pull back every time. So yes, you do need, but that's another subject for another day, I guess. Is how do you build your confidence up to actually make those steps? But you've done heaps of stuff like that over the years yourself, that confidence building. But I was talking about the overconfidence is not the way to go, and it's not based on anything. It's not based on performance. You can be pretty confident, if you've done really well over a number of years in different markets, different types of development product, perhaps, then you justify your confidence. But when you're starting out, you still have to have a level of confidence.
The next one, Bob, that number 3 is getting something wrong in the feasibility. And this goes down in 2 roads. One, like an X, not realizing that the 3 big numbers really matter. And there's a lot of work into finding out what those numbers are. You don't, it's not something you can Google. Like those 3 numbers take effort. They're going to take, your build cost is going to take quotes from your builder and, understanding what that all means and what has to go into it. So, there's 54 steps into that. So there's getting those 3 costs: the purchase, the build cost, and the sales. Getting one of those or some of those wrong is another massive mistake. And on occasion, and we have seen this, where people have just done something silly, like a small typo, maybe putting in that they're building 4, but really they're building 5, and it really stuffs up the end number, and they think they've got a deal. And, what are the outcome of that is, let's unpack that one first of all. The outcome is usually what, Bob? Goes on the market.
It goes back on the market, yeah. Yeah, that one you talked about was a silly little error where somebody did a feasibility for 5 townhouses, and then they didn't go ahead with that. But then they saw another one for 4 townhouses, and they just tried to adapt their 5 townhouse feasibility. But what they sort of stuffed up, it sounds really simple. In the sales area, they multiplied the townhouse price. They still left the 5 in. So they're trying to substituting 5s for 4s, which doesn't necessarily work out that way. But they were building 4 and selling 5, which obviously makes any deal look pretty good. Wouldn't that be good? Yeah, but that's just like a silly little mistake. But
getting the other one is getting those other big. So that's a typo versus just not one of those big numbers being wrong in the feaso.
There's 3 big numbers that matter in a feasibility. The bigger the number, the more effect it has on a feasibility. The biggest one of all is your sale price, your GRV. You have to get that right because it has the biggest effect. Your other 2 big ones are costs. One is the land and the other is construction. So just in the costs area, typically on, say, something like a duplex or 3 or 4 townhouses, the land plus the construction price is about 80% of all your costs. Can even be a little bit more. So if you're wrong on those, it's a big mistake. The architect's fees might be like 1% of your costs. But so if you were 20% out, you're only 0.02% of your costs. So it doesn't make much difference.
I just want to plug in here because somebody listening right now might think, well, why do we bother with all those little costs? Well, you have to, because remember, feasibility goes to your broker, which goes for finance. So there's more than one reason. Your feasibilities work for you to understand if it works, but you're not the only person that needs to know that it works. So for you to give it to somebody professional who's going to decide whether you get money or not, it does have to have all those little 1%ers in it. It has to have those, because I often think people go, oh, yeah, it works, just back of a piece of paper. But if you want finance, you have to do it properly. Otherwise, you are not going to get it.
No, that'll all come undone when the valuer does it.
Yes.
So you can get it wrong. I've just seen so many mistakes over the years with numbers, and that have actually made a huge difference. I'm thinking of somebody, you might know who currently educates people in property development, but I knew them back in the day, and they acquired 3 sites using investors' funds. And when they worked out in their initial feasibility the construction price of they were townhouses, they had a square metre rate, which was reasonable, a square metre rate. But of course, you multiply the square metre size of the townhouse by the square metre rate that the builder charges, and that'll give you that's pretty simple, give you a bill price. It's not quite that simple. What they did is there's a thing called gross floor area, which is often on architects' plans on page 1. And they multiplied the gross floor area by the price per square metre and used that as their construction price for their townhouse. Problem is, gross floor area is measured from the inside walls of the building, therefore doesn't include, it should be measured from the outside. On a 2-story townhouse, average size is 10 square metres in the walls. That's 10 square metres that wasn't accounted for. But even worse than that, they had double garages. And in GFA, it doesn't include the car accommodation. So there's about 38 square metres plus 10, there's about 48 square metres that was never accounted for in each townhouse. So the thing looked great on numbers. They didn't know until they bought the site, got a development permit, were moving into the building permit, and then went for the construction finance. Construction finance, you said, yeah, that's all very well. You need to get a valuation. When they went to get the valuation, the valuers looked at the bill price because they've got a pretty good idea. Whatever, they're doing this all the time. Oh, that's awfully low, that bill price. Where did you get that from? In the meantime, at the same time, they'd already gone to a couple of builders to get a bill price, which was way more than their estimate. Because the builder's not stupid. He'll work out the size of the building, including garages, measured from the outside, put a rough square metre rate on. That's just how a builder would do a rough price. But then, obviously, to get a detailed price, they need all the engineering, everything else. And the whole thing just fell apart. 3 projects down the drain because something as silly as that. And that's an example of getting the numbers wrong in a big way that had a huge effect.
Mm.
So
And
yeah,
that's an extreme example,
yeah,
and we have so many in between of those. Just getting a number wrong, which, believe it or not, all comes back to that comes back to knowing your patch. It comes back to understanding, what you need to, how to get your build costs. All of that stuff needs to be understood to make the feasibility right. And I think because so often we just say, those are the three big numbers, got to get them right. People just sort of, I think we gloss over it a little bit. So to unpack it like this, I think
yeah,
it makes it a lot more, what's the word? Understandable,
yeah.
maybe?
And I'm not saying the other numbers don't matter, because
No.
they do, because collectively they do add up.
Yes.
And what I find with a lot of people through lack of experience is they leave things out. I've never seen a feasibility where people have put too many things in, like made up stuff that shouldn't even be in there. I've always seen it the other way, where they leave out stuff that should be in there,
Yeah.
or get things wrong, or get a square meter wrong, or I suppose it depends where you go for your advice too.
Yeah. So the next one, Bob, then is the next big mistake. So this is number 4, is people having a lack of results. And this is probably you, having a lack of results, but doing the same thing over and over. I can't find a site. I can't get any money. I don't know what to do. You're not getting a result, but you're doing the same thing over and over, which I think somewhere it said once, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a new result. I'm going to be running a mindset program on next Monday for our mentoring students. So if any of you are listening, next Monday, which will be about the 19th, is it? We'll jump on and we're just going to cover off on kickstarting 2026. But it starts with things like that, and I'll ask you now, what are you doing on your property development journey that didn't work last year and needs to change? What is that change that you need to make? And if you're not sure, book a call with our team. There's a link below. Book a call and find out what change it is that you do need to make, because that is something that people that hold off and wish they did and coulda, woulda, shoulda, and wish they started 10 years ago, and all of those stories that we hear so often is just that. They keep doing something that's not giving them a result. And it's probably, I love the weight loss one because I've been 100 kilos, so I get it. I don't want to be fat, but I'll keep eating. It just doesn't work like that. You have to make the change. So that's that next one. Anything you want to add to that one, Bob?
Not really, but I guess if you're doing something that's not working, you have to change.
Yes.
That's
the takeaway.
That sounds pretty logical.
Yeah.
But then, how do I change, I suppose, is the next thing. So it would depend what it is. Like you're struggling trying to find a site. What can you change? Well, maybe you're looking in the wrong area.
Maybe you don't know what you're looking for.
Maybe you don't know what you're looking for.
Maybe you're looking everywhere.
Maybe you need help. Maybe you need a good buyer's agent, and good ones are not easy to find. And we've got a whole process that we grill buyer's agents on, to make sure they're the right one. But wrong pattern. Not everywhere stacks up.
Or wanting joint venture partners and not, oh gosh, I just go over and over this. I do it in the workshops. I talk to people about it over and over, how to get investors, how to keep them on board, how to connect with them, how to work with them. It's a pretty big thing to do, but there is a process with it, and you need to connect. We've got mentoring students doing it very well right now. Take on board what we say and go ahead and do it. But you've got to have everything else in place. You have to understand everything else to be credible enough to be able to articulate what you're after, because somebody's going to be your partner, your business partner. You're going to make money together, and it's a relationship. The next one, Bob, the last one, number 5, is taking advice from the wrong people, including the media. Letting the media influence you, I suppose, is one half of this. And the other one is taking advice from the wrong people.
Yeah, I'm thinking of this is quite some years ago now. At one of our workshops, a fella came up on our workshops Friday, Saturday, Sundays. He came up just after morning tea. It was
we plug 1st, 2nd and 3rd of May is our next one. And if you're interested in coming along, reach out to the team and let them know. There'll be a link below. And you need to get registered for that because it is a phenomenal event. Anyway, sorry, Bob.
I think it was just after morning tea, first break, first day.
Yep.
A fella came up to me and he said, "Oh, look, I wonder if you could have a quick look at these numbers." And I didn't really feel like it. I wanted to have morning tea. But anyway, I said, "Yep, okay, what do you got?" He said, "I'm doing 9 townhouses." I said, "Where?" First thing I say is, "Where?" And he told me, and I thought, hang on. That is a low socioeconomic area. I knew it. because it was close to the city where I live. I thought, oh, hang on, like you generally don't make money developing in areas where sale prices are low, let's call it that, because it still costs you the same amount to build. All your consultants are the same price. You still got to pay something for the land. It's very hard to make a profit. I thought that doesn't look good. And so he just showed me a bit of a relatively simple feasibility. And I went straight, okay, big numbers. What do we got? Land. Build cost. Whoa, hang on. I said, this build cost looks very low. And I'm starting to think, well, that's why it looks like it stacks up. The build price is really low. And I said, where'd you get this build price? And he said, oh, a mate of mine. I said, what's he do? He said, he's a plumber. So he's always working on stuff. And I said, brother, that build price is at least 20% low. I said, that thing will not stack up. He hadn't. Now, he was due to settle that site the following Wednesday.
Holy.
Oh, no, it might have been a little bit longer. It might have been 1 or 2 weeks. Oh, okay. The following Wednesday was when he had to go unconditional. That's what it was. And so it was about 5 days or whatever it is before he went unconditional. And he was ready to buy it. He would have gone unconditional. He would have bought it, and it would have all happened after he bought it. It would have all unraveled on him. And then I explained to him, build price is wrong. And he thought, oh my God. He said, like just come to that workshop. Probably saved him about 50 times the cost of coming to the workshop.
And a marriage. I think, but not just that, Bob. We've got the media swinging comments about how bad things are or whatever. From time to time. Yeah, most of our people are pretty good with that. And the other one is just posting on a Facebook page and then taking the word as gospel of the person who responds. And that you've got to be very careful. You're playing with money here. So.
Oh yeah. I can remember one of our mentoring students contacted me once. They were doing a project, but they still had a bit of spare cash left. Not enough to do a second project, but some certain good chunk of surplus cash. They were on somebody's Facebook site, I think it was, and somebody was pitching a deal, and they thought, oh, that could be okay. I've got a bit I could put into that deal towards it. And so because they were in the mentoring program, they contacted me and they said, have a look. I'm looking at this deal. What do you think? And I had a look at it and I said, well, get whatever information you can about it. And they were saying that the deal produces about 20% return on cost, which is, a healthy sort of a deal. I think it was a townhouse project, not too big. And then I started to pull it apart and it actually showed an 8% return on cost when you did the feasibility properly. So there's somebody pitching a deal, probably never did a property development course, picked up bits and pieces, got the numbers all wrong, and now running out there looking for an investor. And so kill that one pretty quickly. Had they not had somebody to consult with, maybe like me, they might have gone into it and just taken the numbers at face value. So back to what you said, you got to be pretty careful where you get your information from. And those two examples could have been very uncomfortable for people had they proceeded.
Yeah.
And because the information was coming, first of all, from not a non-builder, and secondly, from somebody who really didn't know what they were doing. I've seen plenty of deals like that aren't what they look on paper because of the person behind them just not knowing what they don't know. I've seen so many.
Well, I think they're great 5 mistakes, and they are probably the top 5 biggest, aren't they? I'll run through them again and winding this one up because I've got a meeting. I've got a meeting with Catherine. She just texted me. I had to answer the text during the podcast. So I'm on my way. I'm 6 minutes away. But they are in the order that we went through them, and these can come in any particular order. Maybe these are pretty close to how they go. But number 1 was lack of knowledge. Number 2, just overconfidence, thinking you can do it yourself. Number 3, getting something wrong in the feasibility. And we unpack that a little bit more today, I think, than usual. We usually just say the numbers, the big 3, but we don't really explain them a lot. The lack of results, if you're getting a lack of results and keeping doing the same thing over and over and expecting something different, that ain't going to happen. And then taking advice from the wrong people. They are 5 big things that will impact your journey in life, in property development, and in your success, and in the future you want. And speaking of the future you want, if you are interested in talking to us about our mentoring program, we do offer a couple of fabulous programs. Feel free to reach out. There is the link below. Book a call with the team and see if we are the right fit for you. It's a fabulous program. But anyway, that's the end of podcast 236. Bob?
Okay, great. Another good one.
Another good one. And we wish you a fabulous week, and we'll catch you again next week. Bye.
Bye.